Hello everyone, and welcome to another talk about what's going on in my backyard. We're actually on the side yard right now, but the point is I was going to share with you guys a little bit about some of the things that I do that in a limited space that you guys can take advantage of too, and also teach you a little bit about some of the herbs that I've used for a long time that I really appreciate. Now, I don't have all the herbs back here that I would like to, but some of the most important ones are definitely here. And today I would like to introduce you to Russian comfrey. This is one hell of an amazing plant, and it's a great first one to start out with when you're starting an herb garden, or really any kind of garden. A lot of reasons for that. It's got some a wide variety of properties, and we'll get into all of them. But regarding gardening, this plant is one of the best natural fertilizers that you can find. There's a couple of different ways to do that. You can grow a bunch of it like this and just till it right into the soil, and it'll come right back up. In the process, turning your soil into something a lot more fertile. And I've had fantastic results with that method, as well as the tea method. And that one's kind of interesting. What you do is you take this stuff, and when you harvest, you don't have to take the whole plant. You can take half of it, and it'll be as flush as you see here. With half of these leaves gone, it'll be that flush again in a couple of weeks. It's crazy how fast and how powerful this plant is, how fast it grows and how powerful it is. But you take the leaves and you just throw them in a bucket, and you fill the bucket up with water, and then you use that after it gets black and starts. You'll know when it's ready. It smells awful. Yeah, it's bad. But you know, you want to make sure you cover it so it's not a breeding ground for mosquitoes. But just put it in a bucket and let it sort of ferment, and then you spray that water in the morning on your garden, not on the leaves, but down, below on the ground around the roots of your plants, and it just does some really amazing things for making your plants healthy. I'm not exactly sure how all that works, but I know that the fermentation process probably introduces a lot of things to the soil's biome that are suitable for breaking down nutrients and breaking down minerals into accessible, bioavailable nutrients for the plants. But it works like magic. It's just amazing. It's really, really cool, and it's really easy to do. So another way is just to take all the plants and till them into the soil. Take all the leaves and till them right into your soil whenever you do your tilling in the spring. That works really, really well. If you're doing a smaller garden, you can just take them inside and chop them up, and then introduce them into your potting soil. Mix it all up in your potting soil, and then just use your potting soil the same way that you normally would. And plants love it. Other plants love it. It's amazing. Now, what's more amazing than that is some of the things that this thing can do for you as far as making your body strong and healthy. The go-to lady on this for me has been Susan Weed, and she's phenomenal. If you don't know about her, go look her up. Check out her videos and stuff like that. But you'll find that she's been drinking comfrey tea for something like 30 years, and it's been very, very helpful and very effective. There are a lot of things that are, of course, untested. Well, I say untested, but not what you would call legitimately scientifically proven, but most of that has to do with unwillingness to do the testing. Okay, and just like most things in herbalism, herbalism is a huge competitor for the pharmaceutical industry, and therefore those cats have a lot of money. They have enough money to own the United States of America, and they do. So yeah, they're not going to promote any kind of scientific research that's going to be detrimental to what they got going on, and they control most of that research, so you're not going to see that. What you can see is hundreds of years of written material that has shown success in using comfrey for a variety of things, and I'll talk about a couple of those. One of them is internal bleeding, and then taken in the form of a tea. Where I've used it mostly is bone and joint injuries for myself and others, and it promotes the repair of bone and the soft tissue around it, connective tissue primarily. It's huge for that, really big, and you can use it topically in the form of a salve, or you can just soak it in a little bit of vinegar and use it directly. Now, there's also some folks that have, well, myself included, that have used DMSO concoctions in the salve with a little bit of vitamin E to keep it from turning funky, because it will turn funky in a hurry. But this is best if you use it fresh. If you make your poultices fresh out of this stuff, it's a lot better. But a variety of different kinds of arthritis are alleviated quite quickly with this plant, using it this way, and it's phenomenal. So it can be taken in a tea as a poultice. I don't know if it's that useful as a tincture, but I'm sure you can do it and mess around with that and see how that works. But just about any way you can think to use it, you can probably use it that way. There's a lot of folks out there that have documentation and personal experience with it, and there's a lot of people that'll say, well, that's anecdotal. Well, I mean, how many people have to give you their anecdotal information before it becomes something that's useful? So I recommend you mess around with it if you've got a messed up joint or something like that, or a bone that you've got the cast off of and it doesn't feel that great. Those might be some really good opportunities to experiment. I don't have to experiment with it anymore. I know how to use it. But I'm not here to give you medical advice. None of this is medical at all. This is all stuff that we learned about our environment from our ancestors, and they wrote some of it down and shared some of the information, and that's what we're working with here. So back to comfrey. So this is a flower stem. Okay, you notice the leaves on the flower stem are not quite as broad as these big, gorgeous monsters that come out from everywhere else, right? But the flower stems come up all through the summer, all through its life cycle, and they come up. These guys are at the end of this flower is at the end of its flowering life cycle, and it will flower. And there's a couple different varieties of comfrey. Hey there, buddy. We got a visitor. You see him? Yeah, the bees love this stuff, by the way. Anyway, so these flowers are at the end of their cycle, but when they come out, they're a kind of a pale purple. Depending on your soil content, they can get really, really dark purple. And they're on like their own stem. Now, this is perfectly usable, just like the rest of it. There's no difference between the flower section and the others as far as its use, except that some of these broader leaves, if you're going to use the vinegar soak technique, they work better for sort of wrapping around. And the way you'd use that is, say you've got your knee's giving you a little bit of shit, you would take one of these, lay it out flat, soak it in vinegar for a little while, probably 20 minutes is fine, and then wrap it around your knee and then put like an ace bandage around your knee. And before long, you'll notice really good results from that. You can also, you can do that repeatedly throughout the day until you get results. It's a spiny plant, kind of like if you've grown cucumbers or pumpkins. It's got the same kind of spiny qualities to it on the bottom. The leaves are big and broad like this, just amazing. The bugs like it too. They will not wipe it out, okay, but they do come and nibble on it a little bit because the nutrients are there and they're really good. It's just an amazing plant. And part of the reason that it's good to start with comfrey is because if you're starting a garden and you've historically had a black thumb, or you've never done any kind of a garden or an herb garden, or even something indoors, if you've never done any of that stuff before, this is a great one to start with because it is so hard to kill this plant. It is so resilient, so strong, and it just it really enjoys life. In a meditative sense, when you meditate with this plant, it reaches out right to you. It's like you'll immediately, for those of you that are my students that understand the 3 meditations that I use primarily, and have worked on your discernment, this is one to sort of reach out to from your vey. So you sit down in front of it, go into your vey, go through the process of beginning that creative meditation, and then reach out to this plant and see what you're going to find. What I found was I wanted to go to the hall of the plant, okay? When I say that, what I'm talking about is the seat of consciousness, the collective consciousness of Comfrey. I wanted to reach out to that. And when I did, I got some pretty fantastic images, really welcome. It's a masculine plant. It presented itself as primarily masculine to me. It was like going to an ancient farm that was sort of in the hills, little bitty one, like some old shaman or something. And it was just really, really a cool experience. I enjoyed the shit out of it. And so I've begun to develop my relationship with Comfrey in that way, and understanding more about it, and understanding the frequencies of the energy, and learning some details about it. And also, that helped kind of surreptitiously drop some information in my lap and drop some opportunities in my lap to have what you see here. Now, this is 2 plants, okay? And I'm going to take you guys around and show you some of the other ones. Some varieties of Comfrey do not seed. Most of them, I believe, don't. The ones that do not seed, you have to plant the roots in order to get them going. But once they get going, the root becomes prolific, and you can get root cuttings from any one of those without even hurting the plant, really. And they're pretty accessible. You can reach out to lots of different people and find them. You do a search online, you'll find them pretty easy. That's about what I got for this one before we just kind of take a tour of the place. I wanted to show you a couple other cuttings. I'll describe the size of the cuttings so that you understand what I got from different sizes, because I experimented a little bit with that. I went everything from a 5mm cutting to a 22mm cutting. These 2 guys here were 22mm cuttings. There's one on the corner there that was about a 12mm cutting, and these guys are in their 2nd year. I have not harvested the roots of these, but I harvested all the leaves, and I repeat doing that all throughout the summer. I tend to dry those guys out, and I'll show you some of those dried later in the video, and I'll also show you some ways of preparing, like a poultice, and preparing a vinegar wrap, and I'll show you what DMSO is and how that works in your wrap. DMSO just helps the poultice absorb things, or helps your body absorb the poultice. What's really necessary for those soft tissue injuries and connective tissue injuries. I've used it personally on my wrists, ribs a couple of times, broken fingers, broken toes. It's especially effective and useful in places where you can't really cast yourself. You can't put a cast on you. And it also is really useful for wound healing. It dramatically increases your body's ability to heal wounds, particularly with regard to skin, which you got to watch out for, because you can cause the skin over the top of a wound to heal faster than what's underneath it, and sometimes that can cause you some problems. But generally, that's just stuff I've read about. I've never had that experience personally. All right, so let me take you a tour of some of the other comfrey plants and give you a little bit more information. All right, so we're looking at a couple of plants here. These are also on the side of the house. This guy here was a 18mm cutting, and this one was also this one was a 22, and this guy over here was about 12. Moving right along, I want to show you this little guy over here. I planted this guy over here where the soil was really rough. There wasn't a lot of topsoil. Just wanted to see what it could do. And this was my smallest. This was about a 4 or 5mm cutting right here, and it's in its 2nd year. Last year it popped up one single little leaf, and this year it's got all kinds of stuff going on there. It's got it's had a couple of flower stems grow out. The flowers were awesome, dark green, really healthy plant. Oh, that's my elderberry. That's my little bitty elderberry. All right, moving right along. Come on over to under the tree. There's my altar. Over here we have, this one was a pretty good size cutting. It was about an 18, but it did really well over here in the shade. It looks like it's got something going on with the roots. Some of what you got up here, unless Casey just peed on it, but some of what you have here looks like it's a little bit dried out and stuff. Now that could be because the root is down by the saturation point of that water, and that water is not healthy. It's healthier this year than it's been, this summer than it's been in previous summers, but there's a lot of glyphosate and other things in there. And that looks like, to me, this looks a little bit like nutrient chelation, or possibly what they call nutrient lockout. That happens to some other kinds of plants too, if you guys grow. This little guy, man, this was about a 9mm cutting, and this one has been stomped on by Casey on a regular basis, so it suffers a little bit, but I just, keep trimming it. You can see it's kind of broken up, but it's still doing fine. They can take lots of abuse. There's my bigger elderberry right there. You can see him right there. Okay, now this one was a 14mm cutting, and it's just a freaking monster. Now you'll notice that I do a lot of, I let this stuff grow kind of, I don't weed, pull weeds or anything like that. I just kind of let it grow and let it do what it's going to do. But if you look down here underneath, there's some grass growing. Let me see if I can get this. And what happens down here at the bottom is the leaves start to turn. I'll show you a little bit the better example of this later, but the leaves that touch the ground, after a while they'll start to turn and they become, yeah, here's some of them right here. I don't know if you can see that, but they'll start to turn and become, they'll rot down here, and that's contributing to the soil as soon as they get down in it. And it's just that simple. And you can use that to recover plants that have got poor nutrients in the soil. You got to experiment with it, though. It takes a little time. All right. Here's an example. Okay, this is a Spilanthes plant, and I'll do a video on these later, but this guy was suffering awful, and I brought him back because it had burnt. I overseeded this. I didn't expect all these seeds to take. I'll show you this little guy right here. He's freaking cool. Spilanthes is what this is called. Anyway, it was suffering pretty bad, and I'm bringing it back to life by introducing some of the Comfrey material to it. Now, this is funny. I wanted to show you this. Comfrey does well in the shade or in partial light, but this particular Comfrey, this is 2 plants, 2 different size cuttings, but if you notice that get down here close, if you'll notice that the leaves start to curl like this, okay, that's the leaf's way of saying, okay, we've had enough sun. So this guy's over here in direct sunlight, and it's being reflected off the house as well, and so it just kind of lays down. By the end of the day, this stuff will be all laid down flat and tired. It's just taking a nap, But right down here you can see where some of this, some of the leaf decay is starting to happen. And when this stuff gets mixed in with the soil, it starts to improve the soil quality. So just having the plant grow improves the soil quality. And if you plant like I do, where you have different kinds of plants growing together just as they do, you'll notice that the plants that are growing around the Comfrey are doing really, really well in most cases. Unless they're getting overshadowed by it, that's a different deal. But anyway, as you can see, it's just laying down, it's taking a nap, it's tired of the sun, it's had enough of that shit. Here's some of the, here's some more of these that have been more of the flowers, and this one just came up with flower stems everywhere. This is one happy plant. Alright, so that was the tour. That about wraps it up for the outdoor section of this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's dried, and how to set it up to make tea, and how to store it and stuff like that. And then also I'll show you a couple of different ways to make it to use for yourself, and that's the exciting part. Getting results is always what I'm about. So let's go show you how to get some results.